Well, you know, from the last time, I'm trying to make duplicate irons off of these rear seats from the 11 onto the 8, because the 8 is having to be all brand new from scratch, using these as a pattern. Well, I started working on these rear hinges for the luggage boot, and I got this one made with my second attempt, and this was my original. But they are really close, but they aren't really quite close enough yet. Well, between these ears is where the hinge is going to go on the platform itself. And on my original one here, I'm right at 1.25 inches. When I just bent these around that 1.25 inch square stock, it didn't come up tight. I'm actually at a strong 1 3/8 inches. So I need to tighten this up a little bit as my next step. So I have a short piece of 1.25 inch square stock, and I'm going to just take my vice grip clamps that I use on the welding table and clamp this into place after I heat this up and put it in the press and tighten this up against that. That'll give me an exact 1.25 inch measurement. So back into the forge, I'm just going to heat this whole area up. And we'll make that little adjustment. Well, these are my 3 hinges. These 2 shorter ones are going to go to the outside, and I put the square punch hole for the carriage bolt on opposite sides. So as I put these on, the bolt head, the round bolt head of the carriage will be facing out and the nut will be inside. The center one doesn't really matter, but it was on this side on the original, so I put it on that side as well. But there is some final tune-up that I need to do. Everything I have is still square. See, these have kind of a rounded corner, and these corners are somewhat beveled off. I'm still pretty sharp. Some of these are sharp, but these need to be dressed up, and I'll put this taper in here, and I'll just kind of put it on my sander and draw that in. I had marked on this one here where the end of the short side ones should stop, so I need to trim these off also, maybe about there, and these are just squared off. The bottom ends, they're pretty close. I'll just put the holes where they need to be. So this is what I ended up with. These will go on my 8 passenger. I'll put this back on my 11. So with our hinges done, I want to tackle this next. And it looks like that they built this end and then put the 1/2-inch rod in between. If I look closely, I can see where they forge welded these together. I'll probably just arc them together, but these 2 ends I need to forge out next. So this starts with a 1/2 by 1, and then it's drawn down to about a 1/2-inch square. Then I'll draw the hook on it, and then the other end is going to be drawn out to a 1/2-inch round that'll weld to the rod. So this is going to be the foundation for these hooks up on top, and they come in at a bevel to follow this angle here. So it's going to sit like so, and this one will sit about like so on the other side. Well, I need this little spur that comes off the side, and it goes from 1/2 inch thick down to maybe an 1/8 inch. So I probably only need about half of that length. I'm actually just going to weld a piece on there, and then I'll draw it down. And I might move it forward maybe an 1/8 of an inch so that these bolts don't have to come in quite at such an angle like these do here. We'll see how that goes. I don't know why I couldn't move this up just a fuzz. But I'm going to weld those on and then draw that out, and that should complete this top assembly. You know, as I was doing the first section of this, taking it from the 1/2 by 1 to a 1/2 square and then drawing that out for this hook, I did the first one by hand thinking, oh, this won't take too long. And by the time I was at the end of the second heat thinking, oh, it's going to take one more heat to do this, you know, there's a reason why I have 3 power hammers here. So I thought it was just a good example of the benefit of having a power hammer. I used that little Carahard 30 for the second one, and it came out in 1 heat. I could have maybe got a little more aggressive, maybe used the horn to draw it out a little faster. But I thought, you know, it's just a little piece. It won't take long at all. But I thought, well, you know, that's just a good example of why power hammers were made. It does really speed things up. And to do this drawing out to the 1/2 inch round, to do all that by hand, would have taken a lot more time than using that power hammer. So there's a reason why I have power hammers, and I do appreciate them. I cut out those little wings for these hooks, and I think I'm actually going to draw both of these out so I can get into it easier with the power hammer. If I weld these on, I'm a little more sketchy on having maybe hit that hook or something. And when I draw it out, then it gets wider and you got to do all that. I think it'd be easier to do it with just a straight stock, and then I'll cut it to the angle and weld it on. So I'm going to do that, and then I think I'm going to play with that lower assembly and see if I can get something figured out for that also. So here we are for the top pieces of those side braces. And that's going to go there. That one's going to go there. Well, I thought I was going to try to take this inch by half and just fold it at a right angle and then bring it down to a round, and I started playing with that. You know, welding that's just going to be a whole lot more time efficient, and I knew I was going to weld these on, but that's what we ended up looking like. And when I'm done welding and grinding, I'm putting it back into the forge so you can't see all my welding and grinder marks. And when I'm doing this type of thing, you know, sometimes I like to do it the authentic style, and sometimes I want the authentic results with maybe a little more modern approach. And that's something that I try to make clear to all the folks that have worked with me through the years. I'll say, you know, this is the original iron, or this is what we have to end up at. This is how I would do it, but how you do it is up to you, as long as you get here when you're done. And when I'm doing this type of a deal, and I find myself getting frustrated and I know I could do it faster, it's one of those times that maybe discretion is a better part of valor. When I'm doing this type of deal, since I have access to an arc welder wire feed, it does speed things up. That's why blacksmithing is not so predominant today. It's fun to do as an art and craft. And sometimes you just have to do it because you want that forge welded look, like we did on these hinges. I wanted that look. I could have welded those on as well. Hopefully we end up at the same place and they look the same. Anyway, I appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.